More views will not get you more clients. Neither will posting more, redoing your website another time, or rewriting that copy for the 15th time to see if it finally gets you more sales. It's almost never the problem. In this video, I'm going to give you the exact map I use to figure out why people are not getting clients. And I'm going to break down the whole 3 areas so that by the end, you know exactly which one applies to you. And I can tell you now, it's probably not going to be the one you think it is. I've lost count of how many times a client said to me, I'm just waiting to finish my website before I do this next thing, or I'm just trying to figure out the best way to write content so that my hooks work and I get more reach and all of this kind of stuff. And most of these are vanity metrics that don't mean anything to the actual success of the business. In fact, I know people that make 7 figures that don't even have a website. It's literally just a series of links to things that they do. If people are going to your website to check you out and find out more about you, great, but the chances are that it's not going to be the deal breaker of whether or not they want to work with you. People usually come to me asking for a review of something specific. It could be their content, their website, their LinkedIn profile, and often it's not that thing that needs any attention in the first place. It's something totally different. I can usually tell whether the thing that they're pointing at is the actual problem. And to be fair to them, sometimes it is. I can find copy that's vague, I can find a help statement that's the same as 50 other people in their industry, and I can find ChatGPT copy littered all over everything that they're trying to do, which makes it fairly obvious that there's a problem there. But usually there's something deeper behind all of that, regardless of what things look like at the front end. It's very rare that a website or a LinkedIn profile or the style of posting is what's stopping people getting clients. Yes, of course, if everything looks like it's been spat out of ChatGPT and there's nothing to tell you apart from everyone else in your industry, then of course there is a problem there, and that is a problem that needs to be fixed. But it needs to be worked at in a strategic way and not just constantly updating things that give you a bit of a dopamine hit for a few days. Like how many times I've updated my headline on LinkedIn and been like, yeah, this is the one, I'm going to stick with this headline forever now. It's the bee's knees, I'm never going to need to change it. And then you look at it again in 3 weeks and guess what? You want to change it again because over those 3 weeks, you've grown, you've changed, you've realized that fantastic idea you had to change it to something else was maybe not as good as what you thought it was at the time. And now you want to do something different. And it's an endless thing that basically keeps you busy, makes you feel like you're making progress, when in actual fact, it's holding you back from doing the stuff that actually would change your business. And that's what we're going to dig into a little bit more now. I had this with a client recently where they were convinced that it was their copy on LinkedIn that was the problem. But the thing is, all of this stuff comes from a root, and the root needs to be what you believe in, who your enemy is, what you stand for. There's a lot of a deeper mission behind all of this stuff. Everything stems from that one belief, that one thing of why you do what you do. And all the other things are really then built on top of that once you can find it. But changing one of the outside bits, it's kind of like repainting the outside of a house that's moldy and rotten. It's not going to make that much of a difference, right? You need to go and figure out what it is at the very core that's causing the problem with the business. And that is in one of the 3 areas that I'm going to talk about in a moment. So before I change a single thing, whether it's even just the headline, I want to know which part of the problem it is. Is it a known problem? Is it a trusted problem? Or is it a bought problem? I'm going to explain what all of those things are. And you can follow along and self-diagnose with me and ask me a question in the comments if you feel like it once you get to the end of the video. So if the right people have never heard of you, then that is a known problem. And that can be diagnosed in a few ways. What that means is you're probably not posting enough, you're probably not getting into enough conversations with people, you're not really doing enough activities to put yourself out there. And usually the blocker of that is you're waiting for something to be ready. Whether or not that's your offer being ready, or your website being ready, or your copy being tight enough, that's stopping you from actually doing enough activity for people to start knowing who you are, seeing your stuff, and all of that stuff that leads to people finding out more about you and your offers and what you can do for them. The second part of this is whether or not you are trusted. Now, trust is a slightly different thing because you can still be posting, you can have a great website, you can have all of this stuff, but the content that you're putting out of there is so bland, polished, no character to it. It really, really sounds like what anybody could go and type into ChatGPT and get the same results if they said something like, hey, I'm a leadership coach, give me 10 post ideas, and then they develop those posts into ideas. It can also be that you're spending too much time thinking about what's the perfect version of you that people want to buy. So what you do is, instead of finding that part of yourself that is unique, you go and find what you think the audience wants. And the problem with that is you have no idea what the audience audience wants. They don't buy from you because of your knowledge, they buy from you because of a feeling. And that feeling only comes from you being true to yourself, which allows people to trust you. And that's being vulnerable, sharing your insights, your wins, your failures, all of this stuff that isn't just information and knowledge. Now, the great thing about this is trust compounds over time. So the more you post things, the more you're producing videos, content, all of the stuff that actually shows your belief and why you started doing what you do, the more it compounds. And people can find stuff from you 8 months ago and start watching one thing here, they can start looking at another thing. And when they really consume enough of that information, they feel like they know you, they feel like they understand how you think, and they also know that you're the person that can help them in a better position than anybody else. It's one of those things that stands you out as a one option, right? Yes, there are loads of leadership coaches. Yes, there are lots of career coaches. Yes, there are hundreds of people doing what I'm doing. But there's nobody doing it in exactly the same way as I am, with my thoughts, feelings, history, and all of the past that I've had to get me to this point, such as having a content agency of 50 people, working in corporate for 10 years. These are things that are specific to me. And if you don't share some of those things, if people can't understand why they should choose you over somebody else, then it's going to be very difficult for them to trust you, and that will therefore not lead to them wanting to work with you. If you're just posting tips and motivational guff and things that come out, which we've all been there. If I looked at my stuff 3 years ago, it was exactly that. Motivational quotes, all of these kind of things, trying to appear like I was this certain character that should be bought. It makes sense that nobody's going to see you as different, and that they've seen the same post 10 or 20 times on the feed. There's no reason for them to want to work with you, and it's even more important today than it's ever been. Although it's always been important. People have always bought people. Like if you look at the things you bought in the past, the courses, the programs, anything else, you probably can't say exactly what it is that made you buy them. And that's because we make a decision with our hearts and our feelings first, and then we use our brain to justify it afterwards. So there's no way that you just was like, yeah, they knew the exact piece of knowledge that I needed, and that's why I paid them for it. It's because you got a feeling about that person, that they understood you and your problems deeply enough because of the journey that they'd been on, that they're in a good position to help you move forward. And that's what trust looks like. And once you gain it from people, they won't just buy from you once, they'll buy from you again and again and again, assuming that you deliver on what you say, right? And that's a whole different conversation for another day about how you deliver on what you promised and what the trust that you've built. You respect that trust that they've put in you enough to deliver on what you said you were going to deliver on. Now, if people know you, they trust you, they rate you, but they still don't buy anything from you, then that's a bought problem. And what that usually means is that your offer isn't clear enough, or your process for how they go from signing up to your newsletter or reading your content to buying something from you that's a lower value, that builds a bit more trust and gives them some more belief in what you can do, to moving through your pipeline to the point where they want to become a one-to-one client, paying you big money prices for what you do that you can then deliver to them on. And that is a bought problem. That is mostly where it comes down to systems, copywriting, and how clear it is on what you offer and what they can pay for and the results they will get in return for that leap of faith and investment. Now, the reason that I opened the way I did is that most expert-led businesses like coaches, consultants, creators, they think that they have a known problem. But in reality, they're usually posting regularly, they're usually making content, they have enough of a presence out there. But the issue is that they're not trusted enough. And the reason they're not trusted enough is because they have this idea, particularly on LinkedIn, but on other platforms as well, that they need to look professional. They need to look like they've got everything figured out. They shouldn't say that they fuck stuff up because that will make people not want to buy from them. And that's usually the issue, right? So to become more trusted, you simply need to figure out what it is that you stand for, what you're about, and what makes you different about your journey, and then figure out what stories you can use from that to get people to trust you. And that's, generally speaking, where most people are. It's also a lack of anything that compounds, because the things they're sharing are throwaway stuff. And as we know, knowledge is free now. You can get it from any AI tool, wherever you want. There's all sorts of forums, information, and all of that everywhere online. So they produce stuff once, then the next week they're producing it all again, and none of it compounds or moves anyone towards a funnel, a final journey, a place where they can start to buy from you. And that is, like I say, 80% of the problem is lying in that trusted area. So have an honest think about which one is yours. Are you already posting enough but not being brave enough to be who you are, which is the thing that people buy? And if you want to learn more about how this works and see my way of gaining trust in action, then come along and join my newsletter. I send an email out every day and the link is in the comments.